You will have losers who need to stay, who need to maintain their interest, and who they believe that if they leave, then they will lose their interest.
Dr. Zayd, if we want to overcome, or those countries, if they want to overcome the differences between themselves to have a very successful uprising, what they should do in your view as an expert in the political matters?
Well, I do believe strongly that unity is the key. They should preserve that unity. They should actually sit down and actually, we can say, sweep all those differences under the carpet. But if I may come back to the question of Libya, Libya is actually different. Gaddafi is more or less similar to Saddam Hussein. He's not similar to the Egyptian dictator or Zayn al-Abidin bin Ali. If we look at the similarities, they are striking. For example, Gaddafi does not depend on his army. He depends on his elite forces. And those elite forces are led by his sons, exactly the same as we had in Iraq, where Qusay and Uday were running the show. Here he has his son Khamis, who is basically responsible for the most elite forces who have been trained by the USA, as WikiLeaks have actually exposed or revealed, and they have been armed with the most sophisticated weapons. He also depends on mercenaries, the same way that Saddam has depended on the Munafiqeen during the popular uprising in 1991. We see that Gaddafi is hugely and massively dependent on those mercenaries. So these are huge similarities between Gaddafi's nature and also Saddam Hussein. That's why he also depends on the tribal differences. But I do believe that most of the tribes have turned against him, with the exception of his tribe, which is based in Sirte. That's why the area of Sirte has remained loyal to him. If we move to Bahrain, what we have is actually 70% of the population are Shias. They are subjected to the most intolerable discrimination by the state, and what we have is absolutely a clear-cut example of dictatorship. We have the same prime minister being there for the last 40 years. Now, if we're talking about, again, the hypocrisy, the sheer hypocrisy, when the Bahraini king actually came out on the television and expressed obviously with shedding tears of crocodile tears on the people that were killed in the first 2 days. The people actually believed him. Then he moved his forces mercilessly and relentlessly to actually crush the people who were based in Pearl Square. We've seen the reaction from the United States. It wasn't the same sort of reaction we've seen in Egypt or Tunisia. They actually issued a statement where Obama have talked about not only Bahrain, he talked about Libya, and he also talked about Yemen and included Bahrain. But he simply phoned up his most strong ally, the King of Bahrain, and urged him not to embarrass the USA, because it was hugely embarrassing to them. One of their staunchest allies using massive disproportionate force and unleashing the most ferocious, vicious assault on his own people. That's why we can see there is the selective application of actually the pretext and the excuse they always use, that we have to protect and we have to stand up for human rights, and we have also to save the population in Libya and also in other countries. They don't use the same language with Bahrain. They didn't show an interest in actually employing or deploying a no-fly zone or actually sending their troops there. While we can see now they are actively pursuing the strategy of actually intervening, of intervention, flagrant intervention in Libya by actually sending the aircraft carriers. They're also sending the elite forces there to intervene in Libya. Although I do believe that if they intervene in Libya, that would be a threat to the popular uprising in Libya that will strongly play into the hands of Gaddafi. He will use it to severely discredit and to severely undermine the popular uprising by actually claiming that it is a Western-inspired uprising.
Doctor, if you allow me asking Dr. Ibrahim, in your view, now we have intervention anyway from the Western countries in some special countries like Libya, Bahrain, and we have another intervention. It is not seen by the media. It is just like advice and comment regarding what they have to do regarding the movement and uprising. And we saw a lot of the reforms in the other Arab countries. How you can give us a picture regarding those countries and what sort of the reforms is taking place on those countries?
Well, my understanding and observation is that there is a general agreement among the Arab peoples that foreign encroachment in the Middle East should be rejected by any means. That's why maybe we've seen slogans in Egypt and Tunisia against the Western intervention, and so I think it is the time for the West to understand that one of the maybe the motivating factors for uprising in the Middle East is that the Western intervention in the Middle East. It's not only dictatorship; it is also the Western intervention in the Middle East, and this is related to the dignity and identity of the Arab peoples. We've seen this also in Bahrain, Yemen, and Libya, and that's why yesterday or the day before yesterday there was like a slogan in Benghazi that calling the Western not to interfere in the uprising, because it will be distorted once they step in. Then the uprising in Libya will be distorted and maybe demolished by Gaddafi himself, who will see himself as a leader of independence again, and he will appear like a revolutionary and charismatic leadership. So I think maybe